I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
And will, to the best of my ability.
And will, to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
The evil orange man was sworn in as president of the United States yesterday, and already, and I mean already, we have multiple different media hoaxes against the evil orange man. Trump derangement is back in a big way, and honestly, are we even surprised? Are you guys not comforted by the fact that the left-wing lunatics are still in fact left-wing lunatics? However, I do want to point out that many of these hoaxes are being called out by unexpected sources. Now, you guys might have heard this hoax that Elon Musk gave a Nazi salute at a Trump victory speech.
You know, there are elections that come and go. Some elections are, you know, important, some are not. But this one, this one really mattered. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you. My heart goes out to you. It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured.
This is obviously not true. He was doing the "my heart goes out to you" kind of thing, which, by the way, Bono does. He is awkward. A lot of people freeze-framed it in order to make it look bad. But even the ADL, and let me emphasize that again, the ADL decided to say, hey, look, guys, this was clearly and obviously not a Sikh Heil, not a Nazi salute. That's ridiculous and absurd. And when the ADL is saying that something is not anti-Semitic, you know the winds of change are in fact blowing. But we also have, in addition to that, a bunch of different things like them already finding an illegal migrant mother crying at the border because the laws changed. I mean, she only had 2 years notice to know that the law would change if Trump was elected president and he was sworn in that day. But apparently we are supposed to be oh so sad because of it. Now, we're going to get into this. We're going to break this down. We're going to talk about some of his executive orders. But before we do, I will remind you that DebateCon 5 is happening in Newark, New Jersey on Saturday, February 15th and Sunday, February 16th. My debate is actually on the Sunday, the 16th. Link to get your tickets in the top of the description.
Trump is starting his second term with a hard stance on immigration. Tonight, he unveiled those 10 plans, those 10 executive orders, all about border and immigration policy. And we can go through some of them real quick here. The big one, Trump is declaring a national emergency at the border. He's also ending the catch and release program, which allows detainees to go free until their court dates. Third, he's bringing back the Remain in Mexico policy, which would require migrants to get asylum in Mexico until their court dates here. Mexico President Claudia Sheinbaum is pretty clear she's not on board with that one yet, but he's talking about possible tariffs on Mexico. And next, he's ending birthright citizenship, which we understood was guaranteed by the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. He's also designated drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations.
So moments after the evil orange man was, of course, inaugurated, after he was sworn in, which, by the way, he decided to have Melania Trump dress like a Chicago mobster, looking like she's going to pull out a Tommy gun. And yes, I am making commentary on the lady's wardrobe. Relax, people. It's just jokes. We ended up being greeted with this particular video of this supposed mother of three who was in line waiting in order to get paroled into the United States of America through the CBD1 app, and she discovered that, of course, the CBD1 app would be among the many of things that would be changing when Trump was president. And of course, the border was eventually guarded by the president's executive order. We saw footage of that as well. And yeah, obviously no one should be surprised. However, I do want to point out that there are some people mocking this woman in particular for her tears, and I am not in that camp. It is a sad situation that she has found herself in. However, the sad situation that she found herself in is not due to the fact that the evil orange man is enforcing the law. It is due to the fact that the Biden administration encouraged these people in Latin America and all other parts of the world to sell all of their worldly possessions and surge to the border in order to commit asylum fraud. And remember, Biden said he was doing this because that's who we are.
In fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come.
So make no mistake, I do feel bad for this woman. I do feel bad that she is upset, that she's brought to tears, but the fact of the matter is, she was procrastinating because you had 4 years to flood the border under the Biden administration, and B, she was misled by officials in the US government who said that the border was wide open and anybody could surge if they wanted to, and of course, this CBD1 app was aiding and abetting that. And to be 100% clear, you do not in any way, shape, or form have a right to be paroled into the interior of the United States of America. This woman is upset because her appointment to be paroled into the US was canceled because the app was closed. Again, this is not something that you have a right to do. She apparently arrived in and around this area at 4 o'clock in the morning, so she was waiting there until 1 p.m. when she discovered her appointment would be canceled. And while I do feel bad that she is upset, let me make something again 100% clear. You do not have a right to be paroled into the United States. You should not be surprised that Trump has reinstituted Remain in Mexico, and you should not be surprised that he was shutting down this particular portion of this app because you know what? He promised to do so again on the campaign trail. However, many in the left wing are not taking this well, including one of this channel's favorites, Emma Vigeland from The Majority Report, who decided to quote tweet this and say, "F anyone normalizing what is about to happen. Look at the pain on her face." Now again, Emma, let me make this 100% clear to you. You do not have a right to be paroled into the interior of the United States of America. And B, this is also very important, it is very interesting who you choose to feel empathy for, who you performatively choose to feel empathy for, and who you attack, because I seem to remember an American citizen, a physician's assistant, who got off her shift at work, was going to a city bike that she had reserved for herself, only to be forced back into the dock by 4 black teenagers and have the bike taken from her, at which point in time she ended up crying. And Emma Vigeland, in response to this, defamed this woman. She said that this woman was drunk. By the way, again, she was pregnant, visibly pregnant. She was also getting off of her shift in scrubs. She also said that this woman was racist because Emma Vigeland was pushing the hoax that this woman walked up to a group of 4 black teenagers in order to rob them for their city bike, something that a 36-year-old pregnant white woman has never done in the history of the country. And of course, she mocked her for crying.
I mean, I ride city bikes, which is clearly what they're using there, and it's not that hard to figure out. If you're doing it on the app, it'll say which bike and which. It'll have a label at the docking station for which bike she's in reference, or they're both referencing. So honestly, it should have been pretty clear to her, but she's in work clothes. So my first thought was, is she drunk? Like, is she, I don't know, but she just seemed really out of it. And she's straight up racist, totally. But there was like, she wasn't really making a ton of sense, which was bizarre. And they were like, this is my bike. Just go to the other bike stand, the little docking station, and get your own. It's not that difficult. But yeah, I mean, the white woman fake crying thing, I could do it too, but and then you just turn it off.
So make no mistake about it, Emma does not give a damn about either of these women. This woman who's at the border, who's crying, her tears end up forwarding Emma's agenda. So of course she says, look at the pain on her face. Again, she never did that for Laken Riley's family or anything of the sort, considered that to be a distraction. But in this other case, this New York case, which by the way, Emma has never apologized for, despite everything she said being 100% false and defamatory, it was more in line with her agenda to demonize demonize that woman, promote anti-white hatred, and spread all of those malicious rumors and false accusations against her, and that's how this person operates.
One thing I'll just get a little emotional about is it does, as a woman, feel pretty I feel like the humanity of women and their rights.
But yeah, I mean, the white woman fake crying thing, I could do it too, but and then you just turn it off.
No one cares. And even in the face of Trump and everything that he represented, that's a tough pill to swallow.
So yeah, you could feel bad for this woman as an individual, but the fact of the matter is that does not justify allowing people to flood into our country. And if you let her in, all that is going to do is incentivize more women in Latin America to grab their kids and surge to the border. And eventually you have to cut it off. That's what you need to do. Now, in addition to that, the Trump administration, in one of its first actions, actually signed an executive order in order to declare the border in a state of emergency. And the reason he ended up doing that is because that gives him broader powers in order to shut the border, in order to deny people re-entry or entry into the United States of America if they leave and come back illegally, or if they're trying to enter illegally in the first place. And this is something that he had actually during the pandemic that he's trying to restore based on the overwhelming number of people that surged to the border, just like Joe Biden asked for during his campaign, all throughout his administration. So he has done that in order to use broader enforcement powers against the people that are surging the border. Like I said, he did remain in Mexico, and he also ended up designating the Mexican drug cartels as members of a terrorist organization, which honestly, I understand why people are kind of upset about that, but in reality, there are very limited options in order to designate these groups in order to take the actions that you need to do, because make no mistake about it, the Mexican drug cartels are extraordinarily violent. They definitely create a ton of problems, not just for the United States, but in Mexico, and you could argue that they have risen to the level of such criminality that they are acting as terrorist organizations. Now, that being said, there's an argument that they don't really commit the violence for ideological motivations or political motivations, but considering all these different Mexican politicians get assassinated by them, and it has a political effect, I can understand why you could stretch the definition of terrorist organization in order to meet them. In reality, I think you should have a third classification, like severely criminal organizations that you can target in other countries. But as of right now, based on the options that President Trump has at his fingertips, I get why he chose this designation, even if it isn't an exact perfect fit. In addition to that, he also signed an executive order that many people had been anticipating, honestly, since his first term, which essentially makes the argument that the 14th Amendment's right to birthright citizenship does not apply to illegal aliens.
Yeah, and Danny, right now, I mean, birthright citizenship, you read the Constitution, it seems pretty clearly protected by the 14th Amendment. Does signing this executive order do anything against the Constitution, or is this just definitely setting this up for a legal showdown in court?
Yes to your second question. This will obviously be challenged right away. But this issue actually came up way back during the first Trump administration. And when it first came up, I have to admit, I heard that, and I immediately thought, well, wait a minute. Birthright citizenship is as immutable a law, immutable a right, as some of the other rights enshrined in the Constitution.
Now, let me explain this, because I think people get a bit confused about what this order actually does and what this actually means. So essentially, the 14th Amendment has a clause in it that grants citizenship to those people born in the United States and under the jurisdiction thereof. Now, this was passed post the Civil War in order to prevent the southern states, mostly, from denying citizenship to freed slaves, because they would have nowhere to go, and clearly and obviously they were born in the United States and under the jurisdiction thereof. I mean, they were quite literally owned as property within this nation. Now, over time, this has been interpreted that anybody who is born within the territory of the United States of America would be a citizen of the United States of America, and of course a natural born citizen. This is where we get the term anchor baby. Two illegals end up coming to the country, one of them gives birth to a child, and then the parents use that child as leverage or as an anchor in order to stay in this country.
And then I read about it and I found some really interesting academic articles, and the thinking goes like this. The language says anyone born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And there's a lot of debate about what that means. And there are those on the right who say that, well, subject to the jurisdiction thereof means that, say, the child of an ambassador comes here from another country, has a child. That child is not a citizen by means of birthright citizenship. So the thinking goes on that side that it is not a guarantee because that person must be additionally subject to the jurisdiction, and the jurisdiction means someone arguably who's already a citizen. That's the thinking. So now we're going to find what happens when the rubber meets the road. We're going to see this go to court, and I imagine we're going to see it go to court relatively quickly.
Now, Trump's executive order says that you need to have one of your parents be a citizen of the United States for this to work. And this makes sense because if you are born outside of the United States of America, off any kind of territory, but you have one or both of your parents as an American citizen, you are a natural born citizen of the United States of America because citizenship is passed to you through your parents. And also, the whole argument for this is that illegal immigrants are quite literally not under the jurisdiction of the United States or under the jurisdiction thereof. Therefore, they should not be conferred the same rights that your children are conferred if one or both of your parents are, of course, American citizens and or you are legal permanent residents in the United States of America. Now, in my opinion, for this to work, it has to be a forward-looking policy, not a backward-looking policy. So you can't strip the citizenship of people who were born to illegal aliens 30 years ago because that is just a practical nightmare. And these people have operated as American citizens for, again, a very long time in the United States of America. Also, that ends up creating an issue where all these different various people have standing, and when this is eventually challenged in the United States Supreme Court, that creates a bunch of different various problems. In addition to that, most countries in the world have some form of citizenship where if the parents are citizens, their children will automatically be citizens no matter where they're born. So these people that are yet to be born yet, or being born quite literally today, they will actually have other options if they came from Mexico and both of their parents are illegal migrants from Mexico to have Mexican citizenship. We're not trying to create stateless people. We're not trying to make a needlessly cruel policy, but we are trying to fix a loophole that is misinterpreted according to the Trump administration legal team and many legal scholars that grants birthright citizenship to any random person that happens to be born in a U.S. territory. And by the way, there's entire industries that help people give birth in the U.S. in order to get citizenship. There were stories that we covered of attacks at Chinese birthing centers, and the whole point of those Chinese birthing centers was, of course, to have Chinese people come to the United States of America, give birth, have their kid get U.S. citizenship, and then head back to China, and all of a sudden, that person is able to be a natural born citizen in the United States of America, even though they have no connection to this country. So I'm very interested to see where this goes in terms of the courts. I actually don't know how the conservative Supreme Court would rule on this particular issue, but the argument that somebody who is here illegally, much like somebody who is here as an ambassador, is not under the jurisdiction thereof of the United States of America, to me is a sound argument. And if you go to the original intent of this clause of the 14th Amendment, it was meant to apply to black people, to freed slaves that could potentially be denied citizenship in the United States of America, and had nothing to do with immigrants of any kind, let alone illegal immigrants. That being said, if you go with a textualist definition, not an original intent definition, I can understand how you could interpret in the text that if you're born in the United States of America, even to two illegal immigrant parents, therefore you can end up getting natural born citizenship. So it's a very interesting idea or concept, and it's interesting to see how the courts rule it. But obviously, if you're intending to have this legal fight, you have to do this early on, because this is going to drag out in the courts for years. Now, obviously, the left-wing media is going to be deliberately obtuse about this. They're going to say, oh my God, nobody's a natural-born citizenship. You two Americans that have a child aren't going to have natural-born status, so how are we possibly going to do this? But in reality, it is all in the executive order. It makes it 100% clear if one of your parents is a legal citizen, you will get birthright citizenship, and this is the obvious interpretation. I understand why people might be confused, but I actually actually remember Rand Paul making these arguments maybe back as far as 2012 or 2010 when he was originally running for Senate. So I'm not a stranger to these points, but there's a lot of people who are going to be deliberately, again, obtuse about this in order to obfuscate the issue. They're also going to show you crying mother and say, oh my God, so sympathetic for crying mother, when again, I will emphasize you do not have a right to immigrate to the United States of America. You do not have a right to be paroled into the United States of America. Now we're on day 2 of the Trump administration as I am filming this, and we may start to see these deportation operations in left-wing cities that were promised, and if so, that will be interesting to see. But as of right now, I'm going to leave this here. Trump pardoned a bunch of people from January 6th. I know about that. We're obviously going to have to get into that a little bit later in another video probably, but I'm going to ask you guys what you think about all of this down in the comments below. If you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Trump and his immigration orders. Till next time.